Hey everyone, this is Paul here, Texas Street Preacher, and it's good to be back. It's been a while since I've made any videos exposing Witness Lee and his cult. I've been busy with a lot of things, including things in the end of last year, and the beginning of this year, and that includes some of my preaching in the open air. But all is well with me and my family, thank God. And again, it's good to be back. It has been a while since I made a video exposing Witness Lee, so this is going to be a very interesting video. I recently had a brother contact me and kind of directing me to a kind of new website that the local church's cult has put up, and it's basically a website attempting to defend Witness Lee and his obsequious sycophants and all of their false teachings. And they've put out all kinds of articles. And this website is called shepherdingwords.org, I believe. I don't think it's .com, I believe it's .org. shepherdingwords.org. And in this website of the local churches, they've got all kinds of articles defending themselves against, claims of racism and sexism and all kinds of stuff. But the most recent article that I saw was an article that was written to defend Ron Kangas. Ron Kangas is the most prominent member, the most prominent leader in the local church's cult today. And the article that was written on shepherdingwords.org was written to defend Ron Kangas and to defend what he said, particularly about his wife. Ron Kangas said something last year that was quite troubling. And he's been criticized for it, and rightly so. Ron Kangas, again, he's the most prominent, obsequious sycophant in the local church's cult. He gave a message last year that was kind of addressing the matter of rebellion among sisters, among women, and how women may usurp the authority within households, within ministries. So he was addressing that issue. And then, in the context of addressing that issue, he said this about his wife. He uttered this statement, and I quote, "I am so thankful I have my companion, my wife, to travel with me wherever I go." And then he says this, "But I am the co-worker. I am the one ministering." And then he says this, and this is what he got real criticized for. He said this about his wife: "She is nothing. She is no one. She is just my wife." Now, calling his wife nothing and no one was what a lot of people took issue with. And again, rightly so. Like I said, some who are composing articles to defend the local church's cult, they've basically argued that there was nothing wrong with what Ron Kangas said. It was perfectly fine because you have to examine what he said in its context. So basically, they're saying you have to listen to what he said in the context of the message, and when you do so, there's just nothing wrong with what Ron Kangas said. They try to say that saying that his wife is nothing and no one really just means that she's nothing or no one in terms of not having a position in the local churches. That's what Ron Kangas meant. So I'm going to address this matter because these statements from Ron Kangas highlight a very serious issue in this cult. And I would say in a lot of other cults as well. But before I address this serious issue, I would just ask a few questions to those defending Ron Kangas. My first question: just because Ron's wife has no position among the leaders, does that mean that his wife is nothing and that his wife is no one? Does his wife not support him, help him, pray for him? if she does indeed help Ron, support Ron, and pray for Ron, then can she truly be referred to as nothing and no one? To use the terms nothing and no one when you're referring to a person, especially someone you're married to, that's basically making the person look absolutely and totally insignificant and worthless. It is belittling. It is dehumanizing. Dehumanizing. And this was done, by the way, publicly in front of hundreds and even thousands who were watching all across the country. Ron's statement about his wife being nothing and no one, when considered objectively, is completely false. I will say that again. When viewed objectively, Ron's statements about his wife being nothing and no one is false. It is false to say that your wife is nothing. It is false to say that your wife is no one. Regardless of who your wife is, I don't care who your wife is. I don't care if your wife is the most evil woman on earth. I don't care if she's Jezebel. Regardless of who she is, your wife is something. She's not nothing. Your wife is someone. She's not no one. So again, before I address this serious, deep issue of this problem that's in the local churches, I will also say this. Please remember this, all who are watching. This will help you in life. This will help you and prevent you from being deceived and duped by cult leaders and master manipulators. Please remember this. You cannot reconcile a false statement with some truth simply by appealing to the context in which the false statement was made. Okay, I'm going to say that again. You cannot reconcile a false statement with some truth by appealing to the context in which the false statement was made. Contextualizing a false statement does not make the statement any less false. In the same way, contextualizing a false statement does not make it true all of a sudden. False statements do not become true by diverting people's attention away from the false statement and to rather some other things that were said in the message. And I'm saying this because the people who defend Ron Kangas say things like, well, what he said about his wife was less than 1% of the message. Why are you bringing out percentages all of a sudden? Why are you diverting people's attention to other things? What he said is what he said, and what he said was false. I can only imagine asking my wife how she would feel if I publicly referred to her as nothing and no one. I can only imagine. I'm sure that she would be deeply hurt and disturbed. Even if I was speaking to a group of people about, let's say, the street preaching community. I myself am a street preacher. My wife is not a street preacher, and I praise God for that. I'm glad that my wife stays at home, keeps the house, takes wonderful care of me and of our children. I'm very thankful for that. But if I told a group of street preachers with regards to street preaching, my wife is nothing and no one, I can only imagine asking my wife how she would feel if I told her, I just told a bunch of fellow street preachers that she's nothing and she's no one. But I just meant that in terms of her not being a street preacher. Yeah, I can only imagine how she would feel. She would be, again, hurt and most likely disturbed. So again, I'll address this real quick. Many people will point to the statements of Ron Kangas about his wife